Think of a Bihu night, lights strung across the stage, air thick with the smell of rain and pitha, the crowd swaying under the open skies, and then that voice.
প্রতিদিনে তুমি দিয়া আহিয়া পাহি ফুল ও জীবন তুমি রহ মিয়া রঙরে বোল
A voice that could make a crowd dance and cry within the same breath. A voice that felt like home. In Assam, music is not just entertainment. It's how we remember who we are. And if you grew up here, chances are the soundtrack of your life was sung by one man, Zubeen Garg.
শিলা শিলা শিলাময় তোরা কাখরে উৰি উৰি ফুলময় দাৱৰে পোহৰে
The boy from Jorhat who became a phenomenon. The artist who turned heartbreak into hymns, rebellion into rhythm, and love into a living, breathing thing. He wasn't just a singer, he was a mirror.
দিয়া ঘুরাই দিয়া পৃথিবী আমার আমার
His songs played when we fell in love, when we lost someone, when we protested, when we partied, when we grieved. For every emotion, every occasion, there was already a Zubeen song waiting for us. And maybe that's what makes him irreplaceable. Because in a world where artists come and go, Zubeen didn't just leave behind albums. He was a heartbeat of our youth, our protests, our love and loss.
মই নথকাৰ অনুভৱ যিদিনা হ'ব তোমাৰ সিদিনা অশ্ৰু গৰিবনে কোৱা
In this two-part series, we're not just revisiting his music, we are revisiting ourselves and what it means to lose a voice that once spoke for an entire generation.
ও গানেতি গোয়ানা হাত মোলাই দিয়ানা
I'm Jayanti and this is The Personal Lens, where we explore the political through the personal. Today, we are talking about Zubeen Garg, the voice that became a movement. They say some voices don't just echo, they stay, like a tune you can't name but can't forget either. Zubeen's voice was like that, unhurried, unpredictable, unapologetically alive. It carried the ache of lost love, the rebellion of a restless heart, and the simplicity of a boy who just wanted to create music. He sang of love, life, of dreams that refused to die, and of a home that kept calling him back, no matter how far fame took him. Zubeen didn't limit himself to one language. He sang in over 40 languages and dialects: Assamese, Bengali, Hindi, Nepali, Karbi, Missing, Boro, Tiwa, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Bhojpuri, and many more. In his singing career, he's famed to have sung over 40,000 songs. But his voice was not one of dilution. It was expansion, amplification. He was living proof that a regional identity doesn't entrap you, it gives you wings. Zubeen was a force of nature. He was a musician, singer, composer, instrumentalist, songwriter, actor, director, filmmaker, poet, and philanthropist. His music carries the echoes of those who inspired him. Zubeen Garg's music has always been a fusion of worlds. At its heart, it is soulful and deeply rooted in Assamese folk traditions. Yet, it seamlessly embraces Indian classical nuances and the energy of rock. And this blend didn't just showcase his versatility. It helped broaden the Assamese musical landscape, giving it a contemporary cross-genre appeal. His experimentation often mirrored the Sufi-inspired trends emerging in Bollywood during the early 2000s. Songs like Ya Ali carried that devotional intensity, while his Assamese tracks retained their local authenticity, creating a sound both modern and timeless, intimate yet universal. Assamese folk traditions passed down by local singers and his own family gave him rhythm and roots. Like we mentioned, he also drew inspiration from Sufi and Ghazal singers whose spiritual intensity found its way into his own songs. Yet, the result was always his own raw, emotive, and unmistakably Assamese. Zubeen didn't just sing songs, he expanded the very landscape of Assamese music, bridging tradition and modernity, folk and pop, local roots, and global resonance. Every note, every rhythm, every pause in his music carried the weight of heritage, experimentation, and emotion. But before the concerts, before the cameras, before Ya Ali turned him into a national name, there was a small boy in Jorhat humming to the rhythm of life itself. A boy born into melody, later molded by grief and destined to change how a generation would sound. Let's go back to where it all began. Zubeen Garg was born on 18th November 1972 in Tura, Meghalaya, into a family of words and music. His father, Mohini Mohan Borthakur, also known by pen name Kopil Thakur, was a magistrate and a poet. His mother, Ili Borthakur, was a singer who nurtured his first steps into melody. He had two sisters. One was Jonki, who was also a talented singer. But life had other plans. The loss of his younger sister Jonki left a deep scar that would haunt and inspire much of his creative life. His other sister, Pami Borthakur, is into academics. Zubeen's voice carried that unmistakable ache, a kind of joy laced with grief, a melody tinged with longing. In the early 90s, while most Assamese youth were figuring out what they wanted to do, Zubeen was already recording. His first album, Anamika, was released in 1992 and it changed everything. The songs weren't just catchy, they were confessional. They spoke of longing, of youth, of a world that felt too small for his dreams. Assam listened and never stopped. Hopunor Hur, Junaki Mon, Maya soon followed, and with it a new cultural era, and that was Zubeen's gift. He turned everyday emotions into epic poetry. He gave words to what people didn't know how to say. By the late 1990s, he was everywhere. College fests, Bihu stages, radio shows. If you switched on a speaker in Assam, it was his voice that came through. It didn't matter if you were a student, a farmer, business person, or an office goer. Zubeen connected everyone in the same frequency. Every love story, every heartbreak had a song. Every protest had an anthem. Every celebration had a soundtrack. He wasn't just the voice of the people, he was their echo. And soon that echo would travel beyond Assam, across languages, across borders, into the heart of an entire nation. But even as fame called him from afar, his music never left home. Because no matter where he went, Zubeen carried Assam in his voice. This voice that had already become the heartbeat of Assam slowly began to echo through the corridors of Hindi cinema in the late 1990s and early 2000s. For most Indians outside Assam, the first time they heard his name was when Ya Ali from the film Gangstar in 2006 hit the airwaves. It wasn't just a song, it was an eruption, a cry soaked in devotion, heartbreak, and rebellion, the kind of sound Bollywood hadn't heard in years. In that one song, Zubeen Garg did something no marketing strategy could ever replicate. He made the rest of India listen to Assam. And what many didn't know was that by the time Ya Ali topped charts across India, Zubeen had already sung in several Indian languages and had released several Hindi albums too. He was never just a playback singer, he was a phenomenon migrating from one soundscape to another without ever shedding his roots. After Ya Ali offers poured in, he lent his voice to Dil Tu Hi Bata from Krish 3, Jaane Kya Chahe Man from Pyar Ke Side Effects, and several others. Each song carried his signature, that unmistakable blend of classical precision, emotional rawness, and Assamese soul. But here's the thing, Zubeen's Bollywood phase never quite looked like everyone else's. He didn't settle in Mumbai for long, didn't play the PR game, didn't become part of the industry circle. He was always the outsider who came, conquered, and returned home to make more music in Assamese, Bengali, Boro, Nepali, and beyond. And that's what made his Bollywood story beautifully unfinished. It was not about permanence or fame, it was about presence. About proving that a voice from the Brahmaputra could move hearts from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. In interviews, Zubeen often said he never wanted to be boxed in. He didn't like being called just a Bollywood singer, because for him, Hindi cinema was just one canvas among many others. Because music to Zubeen was never about geography, it was about emotion, raw, unfiltered, borderless. What made him different was that he never tried to fit in. He wasn't dazzled by fame or by the city lights of Mumbai. He carried the soil of Assam with him in his tone, in his accent, in his heart. He could have easily stayed in Mumbai, built an empire of playback hits. He didn't. He came back home. He went back to performing in Assamese, composing local films, mentoring young artists, singing for Bihu concerts. He was the boy next door who made it big but never forgot his roots. The man who could share a stage with Bollywood legends and the next day sing at a college fest in Nagaon as if nothing had changed. And maybe that's why his fans never saw him as a celebrity. They saw him as one of us. Every time he stepped on stage, he reminded people that Assam mattered, that you could be from a small town, speak your mother tongue, and still shake the world. In Assam, music doesn't just play in the background, it breathes with the people. And for almost 3 decades, Zubeen Garg was the voice that marked every rhythm of that breath. Birthdays, heartbreaks, weddings, protests, political rallies, picnics, long drives, there was always a Zubeen song that fit the moment. It was almost uncanny, like he had written a soundtrack for every chapter of Assamese life. And it wasn't just that he sang across genres, romantic, patriotic, devotional, protest. It was that he belonged to every emotion he touched. Few artists in India can claim that kind of intimacy with their audience. In Assam, Zubeen wasn't just a celebrity, he was a presence, a constant companion through growing up, falling in love, losing people, and finding yourself again. And it wasn't only about the songs, it was about what he represented. A refusal to be small, a reminder that Assamese art and language were enough, powerful, profound, and universal. Every year, his Bihu albums became events. People waited for them the way one waits for spring, and he never disappointed. In many ways, Zubeen's music was an emotional archive of Assam's modern history. The dreams of the youth, the nostalgia of the elders, the love stories, the protests, and laughter. All of it lives somewhere in his voice. That's why, when you walk through the streets at night and hear his voice drifting from somewhere, it feels like home speaking back to you. Zubeen Garg didn't just sing for Assam, he was Assam. Loud, loving, flawed, fearless, a soul that refused to fade quietly. There are moments in history when time seems to stop, when a single piece of news carries the weight of 1,000 heartbreaks. For Assam, that day came exactly a month ago from today, on the 19th of September 2025, when we lost Zubeen Garg. The day Zubeen Garg passed away was a day Assam seemed to stop breathing, and suddenly the music paused.
মই নথকাৰ অনুভৱ যিদিনা হ'ব তোমাৰ সিদিনা অশ্ৰু নিগৰিবনে কোৱা।
Even now, it feels unreal to say it out loud. Because for an entire generation, Zubeen wasn't just a singer. He was the soundtrack of living. His voice was so woven into fabric of everyday life that silence itself felt strange after he was gone. The news didn't just spread, it rippled through every home, every marketplace, every locality, every institution. Suddenly, social media was flooded, not with formal tributes, but with memories. People shared old videos from concerts, selfies from chanced encounters, stories of how a song once healed them. The grief was collective. Life stood still for the people in Assam and for the Assamese beyond, as they struggled to process the reality of the heartbreaking news amidst tears and shouts of joy Zubinda. It was as if all of us lost a piece of ourselves and we all mourned through music, Zubeen's music. People gathered in public spaces, lighting candles, singing his Mayabini just as he wanted. Because how else do you honor someone who taught you how to feel? What made Zubeen's loss so heavy was not just his fame, it was his familiarity. He was never out of reach. You could spot him at a cafe, at a local football match, or performing late into the night at a charity concert. He truly belonged to the people. But here's the thing about legends, they don't disappear, they transform. Zubeen lives on, not in statues or awards, but in his music. And maybe that's the truest form of immortality. When we think of Zubeen now, let it not be just sadness, but also gratitude for the voice that became our festival, our heartbreak, our yearning, our protest, our prayer. Zubeen Garg may have left this world, but his voice, his unmistakable, uncontainable voice still floats over the Brahmaputra, still echoes through our radios and our memories. And perhaps that's how the story should end, not with silence, but with a song that refuses to stop playing. Zubeen Garg's story is not one of fame alone, it's a story of belonging, of how one man's voice could hold the heartbeat of an entire region he lovingly proclaimed as his kingdom. Zubeen's music still flows through rivers, through radios, through memory. And every time you hear that familiar note rise and fall, it's not just a song playing. It's Assam remembering itself.
মই নথকাৰ অনুভৱ যিদিনা হ'ব তোমাৰ সিদিনা অশ্ৰু নিগৰিবনে কোৱা মোৰ কবিতাৰ ছন্দ গানৰ সুৰ বুজিবা তুমি সেইদিনা যিদিনা মই নাথাকিম জানা তোমার প্রিয় গীত গাবলে যিদিনা মই নাথাকিম জানা তোমার প্রিয় গীত গাবলে
This was episode 1 of The Personal Lens on Zubeen Garg, the voice that became a movement. Thank you so much for listening to The Personal Lens. Do not forget to leave your thoughts and comments. In our next episode, we'll look at the man behind the microphone, his activism, his defiance, his politics, and what it means when art refuses to stay silent. Do stay tuned for more on The Personal Lens.